Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to MapCraft with IronManSC. This is episode 2. Last week, it was a introduction, and I talked a little bit about how I got into map making and kind of my story, my upbringing, just a little bit. Sort of went over the overview of map making in general, the map scene, how we evolved, and kind of just how I came here to be right now. So this week, I actually wanted to start entirely on a brand new map from scratch. I actually have a somewhat of a messy drawing. I'll go ahead and show that. I don't know if you guys can see that. It's a little bit messy, just some quick doodles, and I'll try and fix it up from there. So I'm not going to waste any more time, so I am going to jump right into map making in just a minute, just to sort of explain a little bit about what it is I'm going to be doing. I'm going to start a new map from scratch, and I want to provide a walkthrough with that and show you guys sort of the mindset and kind of lay down that footprint. You know, this is what you do when you start a new map. So we're going to go ahead and do that. Just one second here. I'm going to go ahead and play some more StarCraft music. We'll jump right into this. So one of the first things that you always want to do is you open up the editor, you want to create a map. This is what you have, okay? You have a blank square, all right? Now I purposefully chose this tile set. A lot of times it's not this tile set. It can be, I think the default is like char or something like that. Don't really work with that. But basically, you just create a new map. Okay, you set your dimensions. Ideally, you want 144 by 144. That's a good size for a 2-spawn, 2-player map. Roughly 7 to 8 bases, depending on the layout. So the first thing that you actually want to do, once you do that, you want to go ahead and set the map border. So you go up to the top, you click Map, you go to Map Bounds. Okay. Actually, you guys currently do not see this. Okay, there we go. So this is what the map bounds look like. Okay. So what you see right here, you have your brown box, okay, and you have a yellow dotted line. That is basically where you can play right now if you were to start the game. So for instance, let me show you. Let me just hide that real quick. Okay, sorry about that. I gotta do a little bit more work on that. We'll get a command center. Okay, so basically I was inside that playable box, the yellow dotted line, okay? So which means I can go ahead and select I can play anywhere within that box. But if I go outside of it, if you watch real closely, actually, why is it doing that? It should not actually be letting me do that. Okay, well here's a good example. As you can see right here, I can place a command center there, but it gets red. It's completely redded out, which means the bound ends right there. And same thing for this side as well. The bound ends right there. If you go down to the bottom, it looks like it ends right about there, and I don't know why it's, okay, it is. I can go right about there. So that gives you kind of an idea basically where those bounds are, okay, where those command centers are, which means you have a lot of excess space all around this border that you want to use, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. I am going to go ahead and open up those map bounds again. Why is it doing that? Okay, let's just do that one more time. Okay. We'll just work with this. Alright, so you'll go to map bounds, and the first thing you want to do is you want to extend those map bounds so that you can use the entirety of the actual layout. So you just push the outward arrows, you go all the way to the edge until it stops. And I don't know if you noticed, but your playable numbers right here are now 144 by 144. The full was 144, the playable was more around like 120, 130, so you wanted to extend that. I don't know why they do that by default, but now you know. So, with that being done, okay, now you lay a command center, you can go all the way to the edge of the map, no big deal. Okay, so now you have the entirety of the map at your disposal. Okay. So once that's established, now you want to sort of lay the groundwork, okay? I'm going to go ahead and show the design that I already drew. I'm going to turn my grid on so that it will help me with placement. And then I'm going to start drawing or copying what I have on paper. And then once we establish that, it's going to look really sloppy. That's where map making starts taking an interesting turn. It's where sort of a skill set and the mindset of a map maker starts to set in. Okay, now what do I do from here? So here is the drawing. Okay, very basic. You can kind of get an idea of what is what's a ramp, what's possible high ground, what does a base look like. So that's basically what I'm going to be going for. Okay, so keep that in the back of your mind. Let's start drawing maps. Alright, we'll get to this grid pretty soon. Alright, so this is your grid. Alright, you have a large grid, you have a small grid. I don't recommend the small grid, really no need for it. No grid at all, so we're going to want one grid. You go over here to your terrain palette, okay? You got no ramp, or remove ramp, add a ramp. This one is same level cliff, which basically if, let me kind of explain what that means. So same level cliff, okay, like that. Same level cliff is basically if I just click and drag and it just automatically paints more of that cliff, okay. It's really no different than raising cliff. But if I were to raise cliff and do that, it goes up one more level. So you would have to click outside of it to merge it and then go from there. So not the most necessary tool. Okay, so you also have different cliffs, or not cliffs. Yeah, those are the same apparently. But yeah, you can add some ramps. If you click on that ramp in the direction you want to go, you can just keep on adding ramps, infinity. Oh, that's not good. That's a bug. Okay. Real quick, I'll just go over some other things here. You do have a height tool, okay, and you do have some fun little things that you can do. You can raise and make some bumps in the ground, little hills, so on and so forth. You have your amplitude over here. The higher you go, the higher the bumps go. Okay, the lower it goes, the lower they raise. All right, you have different things like that. You have your lower height tool, which you can go into the ground. This helps if you're doing like water, for example. You never want to do this all over the map, even if it might look natural. You just want to stay away from this tool altogether unless you are doing water. For example, Odyssey. Okay, but you don't normally go that low. Okay, and I'll sort of explain this really quick. Okay, let's say you have a marine there. Well, let's say I want to add water, so you go over here to this water drop. You can add, I'll just add Agria, for example. Okay. So as you can see, the water is just really weird. It's actually raised off of the ground. You know, the marine is underwater. So you go over here to height. You can very gently drag this like that. Now he's coming out of the water. Okay. And you just adjust it accordingly. Now, the water looks really jagged, okay? So, what you want to do is you want to smooth that out, make it look much nicer. So, you go over here to your smooth tool, and you just drag along the edges. Just like that. And you can do that along the terrain as well. Make it look just a little bit more natural. And now it actually looks like a little pond. So there's a lot of different cool things that you can do within the editor. I would not recommend playing around with water right off the bat. Water can be a little bit tricky. So sometimes you can get a little bit carried away. Now you can either undo all of this, or you go over here to the height tool again, and you can click on uniform, which is basically a plateau. Okay, you can raise the size. It's sort of like that same level cliff, but this is for the ground. Actually, for anything really. You just click and drag over, and it reestablishes everything that you did before. Sometimes it could be nice for making bridges and so on and so forth. Okay. Can units go in on those bumps? That was a question in the chat. Yes, they can. If you have no pathing at all and you publish the map, the units will go up and down those bumps as far down as you put that crater, or as high up as you build the mountain. That's just what they do. Okay, so I just went over some of the basic tools, and the last one I will go over is texture, which is obviously the most important one. Okay, so you click on texture, which is a little brush, and then you have 8 different textures. These are all default. This is Xerus, and the default that I started the map with was Xerus Dirt Medium. Okay, I can do Dirt Dark and start clicking, alright, and then I can start painting like that. Okay. Increment is basically how much is being applied the longer you're holding it down. So if I go really low and click, it's much slower at appearing, where if I go all the way up, it instantly appears. Okay, so there's different blending techniques that you can use. You generally want to keep it between 15 and roughly 50, I would say. I think the average is around 20 to 30. Okay. Alright. So we went over some of those basic techniques just to kind of show you the real basic tools that you use. So let's go ahead and actually start making maps. So one more time, I'm just going to go ahead and show this just in case you guys missed it. This is the original design that I'm going to go for. Keep that in your mind, memorize it, because that's what I'm going to start drawing. So I'm actually going to put this right here above my keyboard. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and we'll start. The first thing I like to do to gain perspective is to put a command center down. This will sort of help you feel the size of the map that you're making. Okay. Now, you don't have to be perfect with this. Okay? Just remember, this is the initial design. You do not, I repeat, you do not have to be perfect with this. You can go back later and you can refine it. The primary thing you want to do is just make the design. Okay? That might be an okay size. Maybe I'll add just a little more onto that. Alright. This one, it looks like, because my second level is going to be, yeah, it's 3 levels, so I got to make this the 3rd level. I'm going to go back over it one more time. I don't know why I didn't do that the first time. Not to worry. Little mistakes happen. Basically what I'm doing real quick, I'm just going over it one more time. I want to make it 3-decker. And then, this is typically the boring part, so... Okay, now that we've established that, I'm going to get the natural squared away, so it looks like... Okay, that's the playable bound. I want to make sure I have enough room in here for the minerals. Now, at this point, I want to say, okay, well, that's my natural, I want to add a ramp. Oh no, I can't add a ramp. What do I do? What do I do? Well, that's because you went from level 1 to level 3. You got to add a middle level in order for that ramp to connect. That's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to paint one more level here, like that. Then I can add the ramp. Okay? I might actually add it one more over. Okay. Go ahead and connect that. I want to make sure I don't go outside. Whoops. I don't want to go outside of the yellow dotted line because that is the playable bound. All your vision, all your pathing is inside that yellow dotted line. So you want to keep everything that you design inside that line. When I made Mechdepot, before it was put on the ladder, I actually had some terrain that went outside, so it was a little bit smaller than that. It was kind of like that a little bit, and Blizzard went ahead and they trimmed it down like that. Okay, so you just want to make sure that you do that just so that it's not conflicting. Like, oh, I can send my units there. Oh, turns out I can't. Alright, so now that I've done that, I'm going to keep on designing it. I just want to get really simple with the design, and then I can start refining it from there. I can start not utilizing, but just making the chokes the proper size, and so on and so forth. But like I said, at this point, I just want to get a concept down. And by concept, I do mean the map design. Okay, do that. And then, looks like I have another base right up in here. Okay. Whoops, don't want to do that. And then I have another base right here, it looks like. Okay. I'm going to add that there, that there. See, the terrain looked pretty decent, but when I put a command center down, it's like, oh, that's actually really small. So that's why you want to put a command center down or a nexus. I don't recommend hatchery just because it gets in the way, the creep does. Okay. That's a little bit better. Alright, we'll add the minerals in a little bit later. And then I have a ramp there, ramp there. I also have another base here, another base here. Okay, I need to add another ramp. Yeah, that's going to be a little weird. I'll just keep that ramp there for now. We'll go over this. And you know what I just realized? I forgot to put symmetry on, so... I'll show you how to do this the hard way, how we actually used to do it, just for perspective. I can't believe I missed that. So when you copy terrain, okay, you want to make sure that you have this green box here, okay? If I go to the doodad palette, and I try and select anything, nothing gets selected really. Nothing at all, okay? So if you want to copy terrain, you need to be on the terrain palette. So you push the letter T, you're able to get this green box. Okay. The way we used to do it in Wings of Liberty and Heart of the Swarm was we had to... I'm not going to copy all of it. I'm just going to copy the top left. We had to select all of that, copy it, paste, rotate twice to 180 it, line it up, and paste it. Okay? That is how we ended up having to do this, and we did it with all different sections of the map. Sometimes we copied half of a map, or we made half of a map and then copied it over. We would have to line it up with the grid. And thankfully I put this one spot on, because sometimes it could be off by, you know, even just a little line or something like that. So now what I'm going to do, before I actually turn on symmetry, I'm going to go ahead and remove this base, because otherwise the symmetry can get a little bit jacked up, and I don't want to do that. Okay, then you go up here to map, you go to map symmetry, which, alright, let me go ahead and show this one for you guys as well. Okay, here is what map symmetry looks like. Alright, symmetry type, you have none. Okay, you go here, you can go to rectangular if you want, which I'm not actually sure what rectangular does. So yeah, you can do this, and as you can see, wherever the yellow dot is, it goes rectangular, so it's completely mirrored depending on what setting you choose. You can also do a 4-player like that. Okay, so everything that you draw in the top left will be copied automatically in all of the other ones, and likewise if you were to draw in all of the other ones. Okay, but you can choose none and basically not have no symmetry at all. You can do diagonal like this. Okay, bottom left, you can do top left to top right, or top left, bottom right. Okay, you can do both diagonals, so you can actually do triangles instead of squares. You have an 8-way, so like an 8-player map. Alright, and then you have rotational, which basically is circular, I guess to put it. And then you have different segments, so you have 2, and then you can do 4. The most common one is rotational segment 2, which is the one I'm going to use. So, as you can see my cursor, now you see 2 circles. Okay, so every time I draw, it is now being copied over. Okay. Alright, now that I've got that squared away, mistakes happen all the time. I'm focusing on streaming, so things happen. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and actually delete this right here and just briefly start over. Okay. And because I actually drew this, I'm kind of wondering if that's okay to do. Okay, I'll leave it like that for now. If you guys remember the original drawing, I'm already going away from the original design. So sometimes little bugs like this happen. You see these black squares. Whenever you copy, it can bug out like that. So don't worry about that. If it happens, just remove the ramp and put it back in. Okay. Not perfect. That's a big natural. Well aware. Okay. I like the idea of having a base up here, even though that was not on my drawing at all. But this is really where map making starts to take an interesting spin. Okay. A lot of times when you look at a map, or with your average person, whenever they look at a map on, oh shoot, did I mess up something up here? That was totally my bad. Okay. A lot of times when you look at a map, you think, wow, that's a really cool design. That's just how they designed it. That was the design they chose, and then they decorated it. I can guarantee you that whatever design you're seeing on a ladder map, that is probably the reiteration version of between 5 to 10. So the initial design does not look like the finished product. Mechdepot looked a lot different when I first created it. There's a 4-part series, well, maybe 4 or 5 parts, on one of my older streams where you can actually watch Mechdepot get created entirely from scratch, and it looks totally different. Same with Snowfall. Snowfall looked a bit different as well. And then I just changed it. Things, you start looking at the way that the terrain is taking shape, and then you trim, you cut, you paste here, you try this, you kind of morph it basically. And that's what's going to happen today for a little while longer. So at this point, it's not so much, okay, what can I do to make this a good map? It's now, what can I add? Like, how can I transform this into a good map? And this is exactly how every map starts. And then you keep changing that design until something works. Oops, that is not what I wanted. I'm going to remove this terrain right here. I think I'm going to add some square technique. Okay. At this point, it's really more about just playing around with it and kind of just seeing what can you come up with. That's one thing I really hate about this texture, or not the texture, but just the cliff overall. It doesn't have that perfect square on the corners. Okay, you just want to just have fun with it. Go crazy. Alright, you don't have to be, it doesn't have to be anything spectacular or perfect. Don't try too hard when you are creating a map. You just want to create something, okay? And I'll show you what I mean when I am almost done here. I'm going to go ahead and remove. You see what I'm talking about right now? Like, well, I want to remove some of this now. This is a constantly changing practice, and it takes a lot of practice to do to get used to doing this sort of thing. Okay. Train's not big enough. There. All right. We could do that, and then maybe I want to refine it a little bit. I don't want it to be all perfect like that, so I can just kind of go in there and kind of even out, or not even out, but just kind of make the cliffs look a little more natural. Okay. So now I've established that, and I have some middle high ground. Nothing that great. I don't want to base there anymore. I want to move it right over here. Pretty commonplace. Okay. Nice open ground. You got a high ground that can go into it, which we can analyze a little bit later. The main actually does look a tiny bit big, but because I want a base there, I need to trim some of this, just so that the mineral line will fit more snug. Okay. And we'll get to mineral lines here in a little bit. Okay. So now you can kind of see that it's becoming a little bit more refined, just the general area. And then I'll go over the proportions in a little bit as well. Now, because I added that high ground, it looks a little awkward next to this. Sorry about that. I just got a quick question here. What are the different tools you're using and what do they do? So I went over this. I'll stop here in a minute. I did go over the tools, very basic tools, earlier in this video, just to sort of give you an idea of how many tools I'm actually using. So in order to draw this terrain, I'm basically using the cliff right over here on the left-hand side, top middle, and that gives you these different cliff's abilities right here. So raised cliff, you just go like this, and then you can draw. Okay, the bigger brush you have, the more terrain you're able to add in one big stroke. Okay, and that's basically what I'm doing right now. So that I'm using that one. I'm using lower cliff, which you just click on it and you drag, and it removes it completely. Okay, I'm going to undo that real quick. I'm also using add ramp. You click on add ramp, you go up to the edge of a cliff and you click. Okay, if you click on that ramp, you can just keep on adding ramps forever. Okay, so I'm actually going to remove this. Oops, don't want that. Okay. Okay. Now, from this point, this is one area that a lot of map makers, especially new ones, new map makers, where we really start to struggle. We come up with a main, a natural, and a third maybe, and then we design the middle of the map, and then it's like, ooh, okay, so now what do I do with the corners? How do I design the corners? How do I work around it? And they get sort of caught into this mess that says, well, however I design the middle, that's going to dictate the rest of the map and how I have to design the rest of the map. Not true at all, okay? You can change the middle if you want. This is your starting foundation, okay? As I said earlier, just make a map and then morph it, transform it from there. So the next thing I'm going to do, don't think too much when you do this, okay? Just get a large brush like this. Stay inside your yellow playable bounds because that's where all your vision and your units will be. And just draw. Okay, I'm going to do that. Do that. Just come up with a really funky design and then adjust it from there. Okay, I think I'll maybe add a base there, and I'll put one over in there probably. Actually, now that I think about it, I don't want this to be on high ground. Okay. We'll go ahead and just add some ramps for now. Okay, so that's starting to take a little more shape now. Maybe I don't know if we'll throw a base in there just yet. We'll put this one right in here. Add a base right here. Put a base there. I think I'm going to go ahead and trim this ramp down just a tad. Okay. I suppose I can put a really tight third right in there. It doesn't have to be super open. Not all third bases have to be really open or super choky. Sometimes you can just be really creative, you know. You can just make a quick little third, you know, block this area off by minerals and gas geysers, And this can be your third right here. Just this little quick thing, right? But it'll be really open. And then, you know, your third can be either close or far, but you want to be able to accommodate as far as the proportions go. And, well, is it too powerful for certain races? Add a ramp there. Okay, we'll do that. How many bases is that? 4, 5, 6. So each player right now has 6 bases. Okay. Now at this point, 6 bases, that's pretty low. Ideally, you want minimum of 7. Okay. What else do we have? Okay. So right now, I either want to, obviously I'm going to need to redesign this segment right here. But the middle is starting to feel out of place. It's not bad, but it just starts to feel out of base. Maybe it's too small. I don't know. Or maybe I might want to actually end up connecting it. So we could just go maybe a little bit of a roundabout. And again, you know, this is really more of experimenting. I'm not trying to make the next ladder map. Ladder maps just turn out the way that they do. Mechdepot, Ohana, maybe even Snowfall, I don't know. You just start making maps and you start thinking what's gonna work and what won't work, okay? If it works, hey, I just made a really good map design. Who knows? Maybe it will be on ladder. So at this point, okay, I'll leave it like that for now. I know it's a little weird looking. So now I want to redesign the corner bases. And actually, now that I really think about it, I might want to connect it like this. Okay, and then maybe add a ramp like that. Maybe another one there as well. You know, give it a little bit more map flow. Kind of easier access so that you're not going all the way up and around. You can just go straight up in there. Kind of one way in, one way out sort of thing. Okay. Maybe put another ramp there. So now this is kind of condensed a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and remove this ramp. I'm going to trim down this terrain a little bit. Okay, like that. And now we have a little bit more of a design actually coming about here. Okay, so now you can kind of start seeing the map come together just a little bit more. Okay. Let's see. Can you drag this forth to the side? I'm not sure what you mean by that. Or only cut and paste. Anchors. Ah! I don't want to ramp. Well, there's a diamond for you. I'm not sure what you mean by cut and paste the fourth, but yeah, so this is just to give you another idea. So now I'm thinking, okay, because I need to add, so I have 6 bases, so I got to add another base in here. Now I'm trying to figure out where do I add this base. So one alternative is actually more maybe right here. So now I don't want that ramp there anymore. Maybe I want to do something like this. You know, and this could be more of like a forward, an FOB, if you were ever military or you know anything about it, which is forward operating base. You know, you can just do something like this. And then that can be kind of a pivotal high ground area where you really want to hold that. Okay. Of course, you know that the flow does seem a bit off. It is really far around. Not the worst thing. Yeah, it's not the worst thing. Maybe I might want to do... I don't know. I'll just try this real quick. And I can do that, and I can add another really tight base right in there, just like the other low ground third. Maybe that could be like a gold base or something like that, which would make a lot more sense. Again, these are just ideas. Nothing here is final. What is this now? That's 4, 5, 6, 7. That's only 7 bases. Yeah! Wait, no. 4. No, I have 8. Woohoo! I have 8 bases. Okay. Yeah, this is tough. So now, at this point, you're gonna start designing it to a point where, okay, now what? This is sort of that moment where it's like, okay, there are some things that I can redesign. Obviously, the corners, you know, not your mains and naturals, but the other corners, bottom left, top right, they look a little bit too geometric, right? A little bit too much 90 degree. Not the worst thing in the world, but, you know, that's just something that you want to refine, and you can redesign it if you want. I think I want to move this ramp back just a little bit more. Okay, a little bit more like that. Okay. So it's actually okay on the corners if you have a little bit more excess airspace. Okay. Airspace is kind of tricky to work with. Because it can... How do I explain airspace? Airspace can just be really tricky because you can have too much of it in the wrong areas, right? It's okay. Let's see. I'm gonna go to units. I'm gonna hit an overlord. It's okay if you have enough airspace in the corners to where you can hide air units like that, where they're completely out of range. It's okay to do that. Because, one, there's really no base in the corner that they can abuse, right? So Liberators, Mutalisks, whatever. Like, you can't abuse a corner base, right? If the base was here in the corner, the airspace in this corner would be really bad. So, but because I have the base over here, it's not going to be that terrible, okay? Like I said, this right here is your airspace. We're all inside this yellow dotted line. It's okay to have that as long as you can't abuse it. Okay. Let's see, what else can I do? I think for now, I'm going to add another command center right here. I mean, this is like a crazy little 3-base situation going on here with all kinds of abuse. Okay, so I have a ramp there. Maybe... I don't like the flow of this. This is just way too obscure, okay? Because, I mean, you can't flank, you can't really surround with this. It's a long way around. There has to be maybe some sort of ramp in here, but that would really crunch this base. And this is actually where the next idea comes in. Whoops. Okay, maybe I want to do this. I can put a little gold base right there. Maybe, whoops. Maybe split it. Again, this is just experimenting at this point. All right. And then this might actually be on low ground. Like that. Then I can add another ramp right there, get another base, so on and so forth. So you can always see how much this is actually changing. I know these bases are like absurdly close. Like I said, this is always, always, always in the works. How else can I do this? This is a very split map for sure. The high ground does feel really powerful. Yeah. Not entirely sure. So, there's one more thing. I think this was a pretty good start though. One more thing that I would like to go over is the minerals. So you go to your unit tab, which is the letter U. Okay. You type in mineral. You can scroll right down here to resource. You have two different fields. You have a 1500 resource field, and then you have a 900. You have to alternate. You have 8 resources, 4 of each. Okay. I'm going to start with the main. 900 here. 1500 here. I'm going to get some investment geysers. Alright. I'm going to go to my grid, actually. Oops. Okay. So, I go to my pathing. You don't have to have pathing for this one. Yeah. Okay. So with this, I can get a pathing grid. What in the world is going on here? Ah! Okay. Oh my gosh! Okay. This actually helps you set up your mineral lines. You can't be more than 3 little hexes, 3 little squares away. But you can't be any closer than that either. And I believe the 1500 has to be closer than the 900 so that they evenly mine out at the same time. 1500 here, 900 there. You can do 1500 there. Okay. And that is 1 mineral line completed right there. Okay, so then you can select that, you can copy it, delete that one. You can go like this, take that, kind of play around with it and see how much closer you can get. It'll automatically stop, so you can't really go past a certain point. Okay. Delete that. Put this right there. get to that one. Actually, should be okay. Okay, yeah, I think it'll be okay like that. Bases are really close to each other. Nothing wrong with that, but... yeah, so this one I need to do a vertical. And just go like this. Move those out of the way. At this point, you just want to even it out. And just kind of a funky design, but whoops. But that's just the way it is, so let's see here. Do that. You can go right up to the edge of the cliff. There's actually nothing wrong with that because it can be abused anyway, so there's no reason why you have to allow for run-bys, that kind of thing. So at this point then, you can select all of your command centers and delete it. Now you've got a bit of a concept that you can work with. Okay, now the last thing I want to do before we end the show today, I want to talk a little bit about proportion. Okay, right now when you just look at the map, some parts feel really tight, some parts just feel really open, right? It's a lot of space. Proportion, you ideally want to start when you make a map, you want to start with a more open area than you originally intend to, because if your goal is to decorate it, well, the more decorations that you add, the more it's going to condense that openness, okay? So, just to show you what I mean, I went to the doodad tab. I'm going to go ahead and type tree. Okay, and I like using trees because trees are great fillers until I get something else in. I mean, we'll just do Haven because I like Haven. And I'm just going to go ahead and fill this in. Okay, so this is just an example. I use trees as a filler because, like I said, it helps condense that openness, because now this area does not feel that open. It's actually pretty reasonable. You know, a lot of these areas are like, this is really open, but if you consider the fact that there's 3 bases here, once you take all of those, it's a very large network of bases that you can, you know, kind of metropolize in a way. You know, and if you keep your army somewhere intermixed in here, it's really not that open. It's a lot for the enemy to deal with. I think we have another question. Do you need to put all minerals on the same side of the base? Could you put 2 smaller lines on the opposite sides of the base, like 2 semicircles? Yes, you can. It really kind of depends on how you want to construct it. I mean, you don't want to do it to your average base, because then you've got minerals sitting out in the middle of nowhere. Kind of conflicts with pathing. Ideally, more or less, you really want to just keep the bases normal, because it's just easier to work with. In some cases, you can use minerals to sort of block a path. You know, like for example, you can take a base and it's not to scale, but you can kind of go like this to where, you know, the minerals can block a path, which can be abused by the opposite side. And then once you get rid of those minerals, then you've opened up a whole new pathway, right? You can do something like that. You absolutely can go opposite. So I mean, I can take the gas geysers and go like over here, for example, which won't quite. Yeah, it could work. And just go like that. You could do something like that, but like I said, it conflicts with the pathing, you know, because then you've got like I don't know, like you can have a bunch of roaches around here, and it just kind of just conflicts with it. It's a little bit confusing. It's like, why have it there when they could be there? You know what I mean? And same thing with the minerals. You can do it. It's fine if you do. Just make sure that the pathing and the way that the units move around that base isn't gonna cause issues. I don't think it causes issues personally, but people tend to disagree with that, and so we sort of avoid that in general. Not the best, not the best layout, but you guys kind of get the idea. Yeah, Terraform was like that. A lot of pathways, you know, in a very swirly, circular motion. A lot of bases were blocking off different paths with the mineral lines, which is totally fine. And I think that's unique, and it worked in its own way. In this case, it doesn't work. So, as you can see, this is basically what I have so far, and like I said, it's not perfect. You know, at some point you could go back in here and just say, well, you know, maybe I'll just do this. I'll lower the terrain, kind of make a little bit of a canyon there so that it looks a little more cut off, it looks a little more solidified. Okay, now it actually looks more sectioned off. It's not so open. It works. You can sort of manage around it, and so on and so forth. So that's basically the gist of map making 101. It's a lot more straightforward than you think. You just need to sort of have the mindset for it. You have to know what to do next. And then there are some cases where you have to know, okay, the map is bad. I have to scrap it. I have to just start over, pick a new tile set, you know, scenery, whatever, and work from there. Draw something up. I can't tell you guys enough how many times I've had to redo stuff like this. I mean, if you're looking at this drawing right now as opposed to what I have on the screen, it already looks different. I initially had the design that I drew down, and then I started changing it so it looks entirely different. The main and natural, you know, and the third and the low ground fourth, the first four bases in the top left of that design look relatively the same as what you see in the editor. But a lot of things change, and it's going to constantly change. And the next time I work on this map, it will probably change again. You know, I will probably do something more with this base. I'll probably have to rework the center for the most part, but this should just give you an idea and something that you can work with and start with. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and call it. This was a good intro to the map making, I think, just to sort of give you that footprint and the idea that you can have going into map making and getting used to the tools and understanding what it's like to actually create a map. And you know, you just start morphing it, you start redesigning it and coming up with something else. And this happens with every single map. So every single map that you see on Ladder, that was not the original design. something else was, and it just turned into that. It's almost by accident, and we never actually come up with a good design on paper. It might look good on paper, but it doesn't translate, from paper to editor in a good way necessarily. So that's where we constantly have to change it. So I do appreciate you guys watching today. I will be hopefully streaming next week, Tuesday at 3 p.m. There is something else going on that day, but I can work it out. Other than that, I appreciate you guys walking with me through the opening stages of this new map. I'm going to try and keep creating this and working on it so that I can finalize it and submit it to a map contest someday or some sort. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I hope you guys like the music. I'm going to keep doing that. And yeah, thank you guys for the questions. Thank you guys for watching again. Have a great Thanksgiving, guys, and a happy Black Friday. StarCraft is free to play, so you don't have to go get it now at a discount. So anyway, guys, I will see you guys next Tuesday. Thanks for watching. Good luck. Have fun. Peace out.